As anime fans, we've gotten pretty accustomed to waiting long periods of time for things that just might not ever happen. A favorite author coming off of hiatus, a popular series getting an anime adaptation, finding someone who will actually love you, or the one I want to talk about today, sequel seasons to our favorite shows. A concept that genuinely did not exist until just a short while ago and is still crazy to get used to. But with this current season being so damn full of them and having some of the biggest ones we've ever seen, I thought, what better time than now to talk about it? So, sequel seasons in anime. As far back as the early 80s and going well into the 2000s, there were exactly two choices for what your anime was going to be. Option one was to just do your run, maybe 12, maybe 25 episodes or whatever you go for, and then return to the aether from whence you came, never to be seen again unless you get like an OVA or something with your DVD release. Your only other option was to enter the perpetual limbo of non-stop episodes week after week for eternity until your eventual demise. If you did go for the good old one and done, then you had a couple different routes you could take from there though. Your first one is to produce your anime, get to the ending, finish the series and however many episodes it was, and just be done with it. The story has been told, and there's no real reason to come back to it now. These have an actual ending that's gonna feel like one, regardless of whether it's also a good one or not. We'll call this one the Angel Beats method. It starts, it goes, and it ends. And when it's over, it's over. That's not to say that idiots won't still say that they want a sequel, but they're idiots. So, you know. The second option was to do the complete opposite of that and just cut it off like you're stopping mid-sentence. We can call this one the no game, no life approach. What? Too soon? This one is obviously the most annoying one to experience because you are left with absolutely no closure, but was sadly not as unpopular as you would hope. Our final choice here is to kind of just shoot the difference. Not any definitive ending, but also leaving off in a satisfying enough place. One where if it never continues, you wouldn't be too put off by it, but also it has clear story beats left to explore. For this one, we'll go with the recent Jobless Reincarnation, which does have a sequel in the works already, but the end of that show did leave it in a place where you didn't really think that things were left untold and that it really needed that sequel, but also was in a place where it's very clear what the next season will explore. This example would be a little bit more accurate without the last episode or so of build-up for the next season, but you get the point. These all stand in stark contrast to the alternative that can go by no other name than the One Piece method. This is obviously where you start and then go and go and go and go some more, and then eventually, with the heat death of the universe, go just a little bit more. Nowadays, it's not so clear-cut, the division between these, and the decision which one your show will go with is much more complicated, and what your story actually has to offer plays a lot more into it than ever before. But that all goes back to why they even made these shows back then in the first place. And that's to get people's money, obviously. What? And they all had their own approach to doing that. The no game, no life method essentially is meant to get people invested into the story to the point that they really want to know what happens next and have to read the manga, which actually isn't exactly what happened with no game, no life, but that's a longer story for another day. So the concluding ones often actually belong to visual novels where the idea was to sell people on playing it out and possibly seeing the other ending if the one given didn't quite tick all of your boxes. And they also just encourage people to buy the DVDs and manga and whatever else for a property that had probably already finished its run and was looking to catch some people who might have missed it originally. Again, the middle of the road one is in between and offering you a satisfying story that you hopefully still want to consume more of in the future without leaving viewers upset at not getting any kind of ending or resolution, which can be off-putting to a lot of people. So the choice between this and the first option was really just about personal preference and which side of the business model you valued more. That, of course, leaves the marathon 50-episode-a-year monsters whose whole goal is to cheaply and constantly draw in attention while never being up to pace with the source material, so that people are always seeing it and constantly incentivized to go and read ahead, as well as just constantly putting eyes on the series. None of these methods really fly anymore in the same way that they used to, though. For example, these constant non-stop shows have to be made stupidly cheap to be able to run like that, which leads to them being much lower quality than their competition. And when we're in a landscape now where the quality of the show, specifically the production quality with stuff like animation and direction being valued more than ever, cheaping out on these just doesn't work.
Look at the top of his head!
So if you're making your show as quickly, constantly, and cheaply as possible, you're just not going to compete. Which is exactly why we almost never see this anymore. The only recent ones I can really think of would be Black Clover and Boruto. If you even want to count Boruto, and it's kind of just Naruto Part 3 in a way. And it doesn't take a genius to realize that neither of these have done particularly well with the community. Like, Black Clover was able to pull it back a little towards the end and kind of got a cult following, but even its finale didn't really get anybody talking. And Boruto, I don't think I even need to say anything about that one. And it has nothing to do with these types of shonen shows not being popular anymore. It's just that there is no reason to make your show in this way when you can just do it much better. If My Hero Academia would have just come out maybe a couple years earlier, then I guarantee you there's no chance in hell that it wouldn't have been one of these long-running marathon-style shows. It just kind of fits the style, but instead they chose to dial it back, have about 25 episodes per year instead of the 50 or so, and then get twice as much time to work on them and twice as much money to put into them. They also get to lower the amount of filler required, even if they haven't realized it yet. And really pump up their fight scenes, which, even if I don't particularly love My Hero and think it's a bit overrated, I can still see that this has clearly helped this show to get to the level that it is at. You can even see the effects of this in One Piece, which has been taking more breaks and doing slightly less episodes per year than before, and also putting way more time and money into the big fight scenes, which have been popping off recently. You're seeing a similar change in philosophy with the seasonal shows as well. Just telling everyone, fuck you, go read the manga, isn't the only option for making real money anymore, when things like figures and other merchandise can also make huge amounts of money for the people behind these properties. But I don't want to get too into the weeds on that side of this in this video, when I think anime and monetization and all that deserves its own video. All you gotta know is that until people started really simping for their waifus, sequels just didn't really make sense financially. And while this started to change in the 2010s, it wasn't until the dead-ass 2020s, current decade, that this started to really take effect, and we started seeing most of the most popular shows doing this. If we're looking at 2010, the year had approximately 2 sequels in the form of Black Butler and A Certain Magical Index 2. This is back when sequels were so weird that they didn't even call them Season 2. They were their own whole thing, and they almost always used Roman numerals for the 2 for some reason. 2011, on the other hand, had about 2.5 sequels, with From You to Me and Bakuman, as well as the remake of Hunter x Hunter, if we want to count that. 2012, well, that one had Nisei Monogatari, Fate Zero Season 2, and then Neko Monogatari Kuro. God, I wish we still got Monogatari series like we used to. How about 2020, though? Well, let's be a little more specific. Just summer 2022. This season, we've got Devil is a Part-Timer Season 2, Rent a Girlfriend Season 2, Shadow House Season 4, Love Live Superstar Dungeon Season 4. Which, just to note, is about the same as last season, and less than we're getting next season. So, if you thought it wasn't really that much of a change, that's less than 10 years' time that we went from maybe 3 or so a year outside of movies and so on, to now easily 10 a season. And like I mentioned earlier, this season has two of the most anticipated sequels of all time, with Devil's a Part-Timer Season 2 and Classroom of the Elite Season 2, especially the former. Both of these shows have been riding high in every third-rate website's fourth-rate anime list of shows that needed a second season for quite a long time now, and had been in a similar place in the hearts and minds of anime fans as well. The first season of both of these shows had done very well in their respective seasons, which were summer of 2017 and spring of 2013, being 5 and over 9 years ago now. But here they both sit now, doing pretty well for themselves in this current season, showing that even if fans are made to wait stupidly long times, they're still going to be clamoring for it and be there when it drops. And with any luck, the success of these shows might signal for even more of these older shows to get more seasons to come back after being gone for so long. On that note, we've already got some really good ones that we never thought we would get a second season of, like Masamune-kun's Revenge or Yojo Senkai getting another season now. And some stuff that no one was waiting to get a second season of, like In Another World to My Smartphone. Like, what? Who signs off on this shit? Now, that movie thing I mentioned earlier is kind of interesting. How movie continuations are handled in anime is a whole nother concept in itself that is too much to just throw into this video. But you could argue that's how most anime back in the day got their sequels, but I don't think any of us are here thinking that they're the same thing exactly. But they were better than nothing, so it deserves a mention at least. Kids these days will never undergo the struggle of finishing a hot new show, knowing that there was almost no chance of it getting another season unless you got super lucky with something like Code Geass or Spice and Wolf. That's why when One Punch Man came out in 2015, pretty much nobody who had been around for more than a minute was surprised when they didn't announce even the plans for a sequel in the years following its release, despite it absolutely crushing that season and being one of the biggest anime ever, and it having such a huge role in pushing anime into the mainstream to the point that it is today. Now, though, they're putting damn Marvel post-credit scenes in these shows, all like Deku will return and shit at the end of the season. We've even gotten to Avatar, the blue people one, not the good one, point where we're announcing sequels to sequels before the first one even came out. First time I noticed this was when pretty shortly after Shield Hero ended, they announced both Season 2 and 3 at the same time. We'd never even seen something like that before. I thought it must have been a joke or like a mistake or something by somebody at Mal or whatnot. I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens now that Season 2 didn't exactly perform as well as I'm sure they had anticipated. We didn't have anything like that, though. It was watch your 12 episodes, sit down, and read the manga, or shut up, because you're not getting any more. That's just how it was. And let me tell you, that shit sucked. You think I didn't want stuff like One Punch Man, or No Game No Life, or Claymore, or Toradora, or Maid-sama to get another season? Of course I did. Shit, while I was writing this script, they announced another anime project for Panty and Stocking, which has not had an anime for 12 years. So, thank God, new anime fans don't have to deal with this anymore, even if it does seem like it's getting a little out of hand sometimes. Because I can't imagine a universe where I wasn't able to finish out some of my favorite shows like Attack on Titan in their beautiful animated form. Because, well, yeah, going to read the manga or the light novel or whatever is still fine and always an option, and one that I've taken personally on plenty of my favorite properties. But for me, at least, it doesn't really replace the same experience that getting to watch it in motion provides. So I'll always go back to watch the anime on any show that I really like, regardless if I've read ahead in the manga or what have you. And there are plenty of stories that I've enjoyed the anime enough that I'm willing to wait and not read ahead because I just want that experience. One thing you should never wait on, though, is hitting that subscribe button below this video. Because I've got lots of other videos in the works right now that are even better than this one. It's like the reverse of what they did with One Punch Man. It just gets better. Crazy. So if you want to see me get way too heated about anime again, then make sure to do that. And if you enjoyed this little talk about just sequels in anime, please leave a like and just let me know what you think down in the comments below. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time. Peace.